Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalrin, and in today's video I want to talk a bit about the Azerite gear system and primarily the Azerite power system. The new system will be farming dailies, dungeons, and everything in between. Everything that we can to reward us with this another system that we have to grind and farm up in order to unlock our characters and increase the power levels in some sense. I feel like the Azerite power system is not really as talked about, and I kind of want to bring it to light, mostly because I really want the system to be good and I have some concerns. So what is the Azerite system? Compared to the artifact power system, it is more or less the same, just different in the name. You still are going to get it from your dailies, you still are going to get it from your Mythic Plus chest, and yes, when you try to roll for that piece of gear of best in slot gear, you are going to be rewarded with some complimentary Azerite power, because we all love getting that complimentary artifact power in Legion. Another thing is the actual item where we store all this AP in is going to be a necklace rather than a weapon. The necklace is a little simplified. It just has a bunch of stats of crit, mastery, versatility, haste. So whatever class you are, whatever spec you are, it's very much interchangeable and has a lot more flexibility to it. It's also a pretty big system, as it replaces our 2-piece and 4-piece set bonuses completely. So you're taking an aspect out of the game that's been there for quite a while, and you're just tossing it out of the window with this brand new system. This is going to be a huge cornerstone of the game, so that's why I'm really concerned about it, and I really hope that it comes out good. So as you watch this video, please keep in mind the question in your head: is this system good? Is it good for BFA? Is it better than the AP system, or is it just bad overall? And I really want to hear you guys' opinions on this system, because I don't know if I'm the only one who has some of the thoughts about this, or if I'm the only one with these concerns, so I'd love to hear it in the comments at the end of the video. I also should mention that we're still in the beta, so any of these systems might change, but I doubt they're going to radically change. We are only a few months before BFA is coming out, and I doubt they're going to completely scrap this whole system and just change it with something brand new that we've never seen. So I feel like it's safe enough to say, with what we've seen so far, that this is more or less going to be what we will have on the release. Now, the first thing I could talk about is the catch-up mechanic. I'm really hoping that it actually gets implemented. We don't have the catch-up mechanic on the beta, so right now people are resorted, if they want to test out any pieces of gear, instead of doing world quests and killing rares and doing dungeons back to back, instead a lot of people are just spamming on a single node of a world quest in a raid group, and the node keeps resetting, because Blizzard won't give us level 120 tunes to test all the things we need in order to see how the game plays, in order to test all the systems of all these Azerite power bonuses. We have to basically just farm that same node. So I was kind of hoping they would implement something like this in the beta. But the system itself, the catch-up, actually sounds good on paper. I just hope it'll actually be good. They want to keep the numbers low. They want to let you find a way to catch up with the Azerite power, kind of like how they had us do with the artifact power as expansions went on. So maybe every week or bi-weekly, they would, instead of increasing how much artifact power you gain per world quest or per event, instead they would decrease how much Azerite power you need per level. So it helps you kind of catch up to the different levels, and everybody can eventually get to the same spot. So I think it's good to have that system. I would have loved to actually test the system to see how it functions in the game, to actually see it for myself, because it sounds really good, but it would really help us in the beta right now in order for us to see how it's supposed to work in the long run. Some people like farming, other people don't like farming, and I don't know how you felt about the artifact power farming system, but it was one of the things that a lot of people got turned off. Now, it was one of the things that made the game go from a Facebook casual game Warlord genre to now FarmFest McGee of Legion, which was, I think, a step in the right direction. Maybe not the best implementation, but still a step in a good direction to make the game reward you for farming things. But a lot of people didn't like the artifact power system. Don't get me wrong, I think what the artifact power system represented, the idea that you're farming something towards building up your character in more ways than just gear, in more ways than just talents, as in the old systems where you'd farm and get a talent point per 2 levels or so, and then build up your character with that. It was another way to build up your character. You're farming a weapon with this vanilla-esque talent systems that you could choose for it. Eventually filled up all the talents. But I think having something to work forward, something long-term, is good. It's just the way that artifact power system at the beginning it was implemented was not done well. First of all, they had a weapon that you had to farm per specialization. So if you were somebody who wanted to be the best at that one spec, a lot of people felt pressure to just start stacking all that artifact power into that one weapon. Just keep putting into that one weapon over and over and over. Some people that want to play more than one spec felt that if I don't commit just to one weapon, I might start falling behind. And a lot of people felt, oh, this is overwhelming to have to farm for every single thing. Imagine being a druid with 4 different weapons. That must have been a nightmare. Of course, we're talking about Legion system with artifact power at the very beginning, not the one we have that's more polished, the current system. I feel like the artifact power farming method needs to have some defined soft caps for us. And I guess in a sense, they sort of do. Let's say you take a look at the dungeon gear and it has you how many levels you need in order to get all the unlocks plus the item level bonus for that piece of gear. Of course, we'll see the same thing in dungeons. Why I think we should have some kind of a soft cap, at least kind of like a finish line for certain patch or a certain rate here. So a lot of players can keep farming forever and ever and ever. And it's kind of not exciting to see there's no end in sight. You feel like you're a slave or like a crack addict looking for some crack. It just doesn't ever stop. So when you have some kind of a soft cap, it's almost like a finish line, where a lot of people feel like, okay, I got to that line. If I'm somebody who is more casual, I can kind of just relax and chill and hover at this area. Or if you're somebody who is more hardcore that wants to go way past the line, you're more than welcome to and continue to farm it. I feel that having that kind of finish line at least lets people know that, okay, I'm at a point, I completed it, I got to a certain state, and it feels more satisfying to know that, okay, I at least reached the base point. I am going to have that point moved up further with the next rate tier, but at least where I'm at right now, there's a bit of feeling of satisfaction and completeness. But that artifact power system at the very beginning, it felt like you were kind of just drowning in so much artifact power and there's no island in sight. I also like the change with the weapon for the Azerite power system. Instead of having us different weapons, it's just a necklace. It doesn't discriminate what spec you are. And the Azerite pieces themselves is what you're gonna have to really farm for. Like for example, if you commit to get a full piece of Azerite gear with feral talents for it, or feral bonuses, you can't quite use that vice versa on a Boomkin or on a Resto. So people are gonna have more than one set of gear, which I guess is gonna fill up a lot of bags. But the actual system doesn't force you to play only one spec. It is fairly easy for you to just work on all 3 specs at the same time, and with your pieces of gear decide whether you want to commit a point towards a spec specific one, or maybe find a middle ground where you can play more than one spec. And I feel like the gear customization itself adds a little bit more flexibility and personalized touch to it, but that's kind of on a different topic, which I'll talk in a bit. But I like the idea that they're really scrapping the idea of weapons. I like how they're allowing us to kind of just work on everything. Because while I love my Outlaw Rogue, and this is a spec that I enjoy, I really do enjoy trying out other specs. Maybe something works here. Maybe there's a talent that it could be work. And the game is going to be brand new with BFA. So many class changes, and if you were to just commit someone to one spec, it'll be asinine. So I'm really happy that that is gone, and that's probably like the best part, the one that I have really no issues. I'm just super happy about it. Also, the Azerite bonuses themselves are all very interesting, but I feel like they can be a double-edged sword, more or less. Now, the bonuses themselves really do add a lot of customizability and utility, and in some sense, they seem kind of fun. Like for Outlaw Rogues, for example, we got this interesting bonus where when we roll the bones, which is a buff mechanic, you can roll a variety of buffs, and usually rolling one buff, only one, is bad. Sometimes you can roll a bad buff like Grand Melee. If you roll one buff with one Azerite bonus, you get agility, offsetting the buffs mechanic. So if you roll just one buff, normally for some people that would mean, oh man, I gotta re-roll, or if I stick with this buff, I'm just losing out on damage. So there's an Azerite bonus that offsets the buff mechanic, which I think a lot of people will find super exciting, as their damage won't really take as much of a hit. This is like a game changer. Then of course there's legendary effects that we've seen in the past, like some DPS legendaries. For Outlaw, the Bracers effect is making a comeback as a bonus, and then they have some other varieties. Things like Sprint can be used in a group utility, where normally you would bring like a Feral Druid or a Guardian Druid in order to give everybody stampeding roars so everybody can move fast in a Mythic Plus dungeon. Now Rogues, if you get certain pieces of gear and you get that extra utility, when using Sprint, you increase the speed of other classes and characters around you. So imagine trying to complete a Mythic Plus dungeon and you're trying to speedrun it as fast as possible, and instead of the group bringing a Feral or a Guardian Druid, they just bring a Rogue with a piece of sets of gear that give everybody movement speed when you use Sprint. How exciting would that be? Then Then of course there's some legendaries that really end up making a change in a lot of classes' potential. A lot of classes in Legion just didn't have the defensiveness to survive certain mechanics, and to make him tanky, a lot of classes took legendaries like Pride Ass, which basically just gave you an absorb shield every 30 seconds. This was invaluable for certain classes to even compete. In Mythic Plus dungeons, Paladins and Hunters used it plenty often in order to survive mechanics. Healers could use it so they would spend more time healing others, less time healing themselves, because they had an absorb every 30 seconds. Tanks would use it in order to make them even more tanky, allowing healers to focus on the DPS or even do more damage to the boss to add damage to the party or group. So stuff like that is also getting baselined. So a lot of classes will have access to things like these in order to be viable and competitive. And overall, I kind of like it. But they are making all this Azerite bonuses for every single spec. They're not making just one choice. They're making multiple different choices, multiple different versions, multiple different iterations, as well as secondary bonuses, depending on your class, depending on your role, depending on if you're ranged or melee, if you're physical or magic damage, and based on your spec. So there's going to be a lot of these things being made. So my concern is hopefully none of them are really so bad that they're completely dead in the water. Like for example, when we unlocked the concordance and the traits around the artifact weapons for some classes, you had some really exciting changes, some really brand new ways to play the spec you've been playing for the longest. While others got very much lame duck additions that didn't really change the gameplay, if not at all, in most cases barely any. So I wonder who's going to draw the short stick. And I'm hoping that a lot of specs, because there's a lot for Blizzard to balance right now, I'm hoping that a lot of specs won't really have this whole short stick mentality or even short stick syndrome happening to them. Again, I'm just trying to make sure that Blizzard really takes the time to work on these, and so nobody really feels left out or underworked, because there's a pretty big potential. There's a lot to do. That's a pretty big load order, at least from how I see it. So I'm really hoping that part of the system gets done as well as humanly possible. So now you heard all my concerns about the Azerite power system. Overall, I have to say I'm pretty excited about it. I think it offers a brand new playstyle for a lot of us, and with what Blizzard is going about with the system, the flexibility, the customizability, the changes that you can implement by yourself depending on which spec you play, I really like what they're doing with it so far. I think it's a good step in the right direction. I kind of understand the implementations of it, the implications, and the fact that it's replacing 2-piece and 4-piece bonuses, which is the weirdest thing in the world. But I'm hoping this is done well. I really do, and I only want the best for this type of system. I want it to flourish, I want it to be done right, but the only way I feel like it'll be accepted by the community, or the best way for it to be accepted by the community, if it has a good first impression. So I'm really hoping if anything is just top notch, if this system is top notch, and if it's fun to mess around and play with, if it's fun to customize, you can have some bugs in the game, you can even have some quests that don't function properly, you can even have some classes that are completely overpowered or underpowered. But if this system works, eventually with balancing changes and with bug fixes, that stuff will be solved. But this I feel like needs to have really good strong first impression. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I'd like to hear you guys' comments and read about what you guys have to say. And down below, what are your thoughts on the system? Do you like it? Do you not like it? And just give me your thoughts. Just spill it on the comments. I'd love to hear you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Liking the videos, appreciate it. Subscribing is also appreciated. And hitting the notification bell is also very much appreciated as well. Thank you guys. I'll see all of you in another video.